This is Captain Chris Myers, Central Florida Sight Fishing Charters. What I'd like to talk to you about today is presenting and casting lures on the flats here in East Central Florida. For a lot of people, it's a different style of fishing, and it takes a little bit of different style of casting. And what I'm going to be casting today is a 1/4 ounce DOA shrimp. We're using 10-pound braid on a medium action spinning reel. When we're approaching these fish, we're only in knee-deep water or less right now. When we're approaching these fish, stealth is the most important. The second most important thing is making a quick and accurate presentation. Most of the fish we're casting to are within 50 feet of the boat. So if you're an overhand caster and you're used to casting only overhand, and you cast overhand to a fish that's close, you're going to drive that bait down into the water and make a large splash. Splashes tend to spook the fish away. If I can learn and practice casting sidearm in this manner, it keeps the bait much lower to the water, makes a much more delicate presentation. So casting sidearm is one of the main things you want to practice if you want to have more success on the flats. And not only casting sidearm forehand, we need to be just as good at casting backhand in case there's an obstruction, like another person fishing up here with us. If I'm on this side of the boat, I need to be able to cast backhanded just as good as I can forehand. A couple things we also want to think about is always keep your hand that's holding the reel on the rod. A lot of times I'll see folks who cast and they let go of the rod like this, and now I have no control over the line, the reel. If I were to get a bite, I can't reel it in. And the time that it takes me to switch hands, close the bail, and start reeling, those extra seconds could be the difference between getting a bite and not getting a bite. Because quickness and accuracy are going to get you the most bites. No matter where you fish, you should practice every cast throwing to a spot. That makes every cast an improvement on your accuracy. So when it comes time to make an accurate shot, you're used to doing it. So what it would look like when we're out on the water, you'd be standing up here in the front of the boat. The guide would be back here where the camera is, pushing the boat along, and you're looking for actual fish in the water right here close to the boat. We're looking for tails sticking up out of the water, and as soon as you see that fish, we want to be moving. Again, if we only cast overhand and you raise the rod up over your head, you have a chance of that fish seeing the rod. You have a chance of the shadow off your rod going over that fish. If you can cast down here nice and low, it's going to be much less chance that you spook that fish and you get a better presentation. Now, I don't care how much you fish, you're going to make shots that don't land exactly where you want, or the fish moves while the cast is in the air. Again, we talk about speed and accuracy. Part of the speed thing is if I miss my cast and it goes the wrong way, the second that thing hits the water, I'm cranking this back in as fast as I possibly can, and I may get another shot. While you're doing that, however, you always want to keep your eye on that fish. You know, a poor habit I see quite often are folks cast and they look down here at the reel and you take your eye off the fish. It's like going up to bat at baseball and you take your eye off the ball and look back at the catcher for a second. By the time you turn around and look for that ball again, it's by you. By the time you look for that fish again, he's probably seen you, seen the boat. You know how to operate the reel without looking at it. It's pretty simple. It only has two things. It has a bail and a handle. You can do it all without looking at it. So once you spot that fish, keep your eye on that fish. And what I said in the beginning, we're using a 1/4 ounce DOA shrimp, and we're going to make this thing act just like a live shrimp does in the water. And if you were to drop a live shrimp in the water, he'd barely move along. So that's what we want to make this thing do. So when I make a presentation to this fish, the second it hits the water, just past the fish, I'm going to reel it along the surface, let it get up in front of that fish's face, and then I'm barely going to move it. You can see I'm only moving the rod a couple inches at a time. This is all that I want to do, just enough to get that fish's attention. Because if I move the rod 2 feet, 3 feet, I just pulled that bait 2 or 3 feet away from that fish. If he didn't see it then, he's never going to see it now. So, make my cast. The second it hits the water, I'm closing my bail, I'm keeping my rod high, keeping that bait along the surface so that I can see exactly where it is, drop it down in the fish's path, let it sink, and then just barely move it. You practice those techniques, and you will have a lot more success when you come to fish on the flats in salt water.